Alright, Shalom. This is Brother Isaiah from JMS Raleigh, JMS North Carolina camp back from the Lord's willing edifying lesson. Before we go any further, involve all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honor to the apostles, the great millstone, teaching us from saying truth according to the Bible rule well, and peace and blessings so afflict to the nation of Israel, take through spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. When you get to the Lord's willing edifying lesson, you can see the subheading here in Matthew's 19th chapter. It says the disciples' reward. And the disciples, the followers, the believers, starting with the 12, the men that was following Yahweh Shai when he was on the earth in his time, and those who are continuing in other men's labors, right? It says here in Matthew 19:27, then answered Peter and said unto him, Behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. And in the sense, in these days, right, even though we're in the land of our captivity, men still have forsaken all, right, as mortal creatures, time being our most valuable asset, how we spend our time toiling, going in the scriptures, putting lessons together, reading, staying up to date with current events, standing upon our watchtower, forsaking, the pleasures of this world, right? Let's get that, and I believe it's Hebrews 11, because we're coming in the same spirit of our forefathers, of men who have forsaken all. This is Hebrews 11 and 24. By faith Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of the Most High than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, right? Esteeming the reproach of the Mashiach greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. Right? Let's read this verse in NLT, verse 26. This is Hebrews 11 and 26 in NLT. He thought it was better to suffer for the sake of a Mashiach than to own the treasures of Egypt. He was looking ahead to his great reward. Right? So Moses understood, and just as Peter, John, right, all these men, as what they straightway, here in Matthew 4 and 18, and Yahushua walking by the Sea of Galilee saw two brethren, Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he saith unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Right? And they straightway left their nets and followed him. Right? And we have straightway followed the Lord. Right? We've seen the importance. The Lord has revealed unto us the importance of this truth. Right? That this truth is far greater than anything that this present world can really offer. Yeah, I'm just gonna get another one. It kind of slipped my mind. Uh, he said, and they straightway followed him. Right? Let's go back to that Hebrews 11. This is Hebrews 11 and 25 back in the NLT. It says, He chose to share the oppression of God's people instead of enjoying the fleeting pleasures of sin. Right? Scriptures talk about pleasures for a season, is not remembered during the time of affliction. So when it's all said and done, this forsaking. Oh, that's what I wanted to get. Let me just type it in real quick before I forget. I think it's in Luke. All right, yeah. This is the St. Luke chapter. Yeah, grab this before I forget. This is St. Luke chapter 14, chapter 25, and it says, "And there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sister, and yea, in his own life, he cannot be my disciple." Right? When it means to hate, meaning you can't love them more than Yahweh Shema Shai. So that's part of forsaking our pleasures as well, right? Even our own lives, what we want to do, what we deem as most enjoyable, how we want to spend our time, right? We have to forsake those things as well, right? Just as Moses did, just as Peter, right? Just as they straightway drop their nets and follow the Lord. And whosoever doeth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Right? Well, to serve Yahweh by Shema Shai comes with a burden, right? And it's not a grievous burden, right? The wisdom, keeps the yoke around us. But it's a burden, as much wisdom, a man will be endowed with more grief, right? And Yahweh Shai was a man acquainted with grief, right? It speaks about how the Heavenly Father was pleased to bruise him, right? It pleased the Heavenly Father to bruise Yahweh Shai, right? And, we ought not to despise that same chastening because, we understand that afterward we're to yieldeth the peaceful fruit of righteousness to them that are exercised thereby, right? So those who are exercised in Yahweh Shema Shai's chastens, right, disciplines, bearing the cross, forsaking the world, understand that we must understand that Yahweh Shai told us that a reward will come, right? It says, "For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost," right? Because you don't build a tower, you don't build a house overnight. No, it takes time. You have to make sure the foundation is laid. You have to, there's so much that goes into building a house. You have to make sure you have enough material, right? There's so much that goes into it. If you don't have enough money, if you don't count the cost, you know, willing to put the time and energy and effort to grow in the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai, you know, and count the things, that we have to forsake as loss, right? As nothing, right? As insignificant, I believe it's either Colossians or Philippians, we count it as dung to gain, Yahweh Shai, which I'll get that, Lord's willing. It says, least happily, after he have laid the foundation, it says, I'm not sure if I read this last part. It says, whether he has sufficient to finish it, least happily, after he have laid the foundation, and is not able to finish it, and behold it, and all that behold him begin to mock, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish. Right? As men, we must finish we have to finish what we started. Right? And we have started, right, to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. Well, we have to finish the work, right? This is Philippians 3 and 7 in the NLT. I once thought these things were valuable, right? But now I consider them worthless because of what Yahweh Shai has done. Yes, everything else is worthless when compared with the infinite value of knowing Yahweh Shai Mashiach, my Lord. For his sake, I have discarded everything, counting it as garbage, so that I could gain Yahweh Shai and become one with him. I no longer count my own righteousness through obeying the law, but rather I become righteous through faith in Yahweh Shai. For Yahweh's way of making us right with himself depends on faith. That's really what this thing is all about. Do you believe the words? Right? Do you believe that you're going to receive a reward for forsaking it all? Is it all going to be worth it? Going through the ups and the downs, catching the L, going through your afflictions and body ailments, right? Whatever you're going through, right? Is it all going to be worth it, right? And here in the red letter, right? Once again, Matthew 19 and 27. Then then answered Peter and said unto him, Behold, we have forsaken all and follow thee. What shall we have therefore? And Yahushua said unto him, Verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Right? So we're going to be given dominion and rulership. Right? Heads of our nations, part of the first, fruits, to be, partakers of the first fruits, the men that rebuild the kingdom of heaven, reestablish righteousness amongst our nation, right, as we go through the earth, purging out the rebels, right? Once we get off of those ships, the Lord is going to set us up as chief officers in the government to come. Verse 29, and every one that have forsaken houses, right? Brothers who have forsaken houses, right? Our brethren, our sisters, our fathers, right? Because to hold on to these things is to put more time and energy and to pour into these things more, right? But we're here to pour into the cup of the Lord, right? We're here to pour into this ministry, right? Put our time and energy and our spirits, into doing the work of Yahweh by Shema Shai, doing the things that the Lord requires of us, right? It says, our brethren, our sisters, our fathers, our mothers, our wives, our children, our lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. Right? So, we just read it. Shall receive 100-fold. This is Saint John. Not only 100-fold, but everlasting life. This is St. John 11 and 25. Yahweh Shai said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? She saith unto him, Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Mashiach, the Son of Yahweh, which should come into the world. Right? So that we have to have the same spirit to believe, right? That, everything that was lost or we forsook in this world, we're gonna get back 100-fold, and we're going to receive and immortality, everlasting life. That's going to be part of the reward. So with that, I'm pretty edified. Take someone to say shalom.